thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming out. It was great to get the invite to present here. And when I first got it, I must admit, I was like, why would this group be interested in talking about creative? So now it's something completely different. But a lot of times, it's like I get the creative and I'm told to run it. What do I do with that? I think the real thing that we're thinking about, though, is it's really about her. That's what brings us all together here. It's all about the viewer who's increasingly enabled to avoid advertising, to choose what content they're going to watch whenever they're going to watch it. And it's really about a challenge for us as an industry. How do we get people to pay attention in the first place? And once we get it, how do we keep it long enough to deliver a relevant message? That's really what we're faced with. It doesn't matter what form. And I think the good news with that is if they find something that's great, they're also more likely to share it. But it's really a fundamental change than how we've thought of things in the past. So it's not really about digital or TV. It's not about buying placements. It's not about what screen you're going to run on. To us, it's really about creating an experience that a consumer would actually choose to watch. That's really what marketers are thinking. How do we create this consumer journey that consumers would actually want to watch? And it's increasingly about video. That's really the canvas of brands, right? More and more video, I get to tell my story longer. But that's also leading to a real explosion in creative ideas and formats, which is great. Lots of experimentation. Kind of moves from the 3 or 5 second, Vine ad to the 7-minute BuzzFeed ad, everything in between. All types of forms, reality forms, CGI, all kinds of video or impressive types of creative, but really it's leading to more and more confusion. How do I know what works? Where should I run it? It's not just about the 15 or the 30 or my display campaign anymore. How do I really understand what works? And that's really, I think, where we come in, which is we had to find a systematic way of measuring creative impact. That's really what we did as a company, and that's really how we built our business with brands. It's really about understanding through all of this, is it any good? Not the who is the ad going to, but is the ad itself any good? Is it going to achieve the objective that my marketer wants? So we've kind of see the elephant in the room in all these conferences, right? Is people getting more and more able to avoid ads if they want to. And our view on that is, how do you stop it? It's the escalation in the technical arms race. It's really about producing better ads. Again, ads that people would choose to watch. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You deal with marketers, we deal with marketers, really starting to frame the question a little bit differently when it comes to creative. Will the viewers pay attention? Will they watch it all the way through? Do they feel anything? How can this creative impact how I'm going to air this ad, where I'm going to place it based on the response to the particular creative? And will my ad be shared? And those are all the things that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but really can be achieved through measuring the creative impact. And that's, as I said, what we're all about. All right, so we measure creative quality, but it really is about how do you systematically measure it? That's the challenge. Honestly, when I first started 100 years ago, you'd see creative that would run that was just awful on TV. And it's like, how did that possibly get approved? And then you find things like the CEO's wife liked that one better. Totally subjective, totally undata-based, and totally not using experimentation to determine which one's better. It's still happening today, but really having a systematic way to do it is the only way to have a benchmark that's consistent enough to know how your ad performs in relation to every other ad. The other thing is we're talking with publishers more and more who complain a lot about the quality of ads that are running on their site. And one of the things we found is that we're starting to think about decommoditizing that video impression. So a great ad gets treated differently than an awful ad that makes you want to shut your computer down or throw something. And that context is starting to get integrated in some of the programmatic tools that we're looking at today. But at the end of it all, it's really about, you can't fix everything with targeting. A bad ad, even if it's well targeted, is still a wasted opportunity. It's still a whiff. And that's what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about today. So, when you look at the cost of a campaign, and could be any campaign basically, but even on the high production and video side, you're spending most of your money still on the media. A relatively small component is spent on actually creating the creative asset. But whatever metric you use, and these are a number of studies from the ARF and the 4As, the outcome is the same, that the ROI from the campaign, 2/3 of it is almost directly related to the quality of the creative. So not where it ran, but what was the actual message that was delivered. So creative quality makes sense, and it needs to be tuned to whatever the objective is. So whatever your creative objective is, you want somebody to feel something, you want them to go, call a call center, you want some direct response, or you want some longer term brand response. All of these metrics can be tuned to really predict that outcome. This is an interesting slide. This is just looking at some random ACE scores. ACE score is our single number score that aggregates a ton of these metrics together for an overall score. And it's a decent indicator of overall performance. We just grabbed a few brands here, and you see this scatter plot. The thing I love about this is, okay, there's still some really good ads out there, and there's some really terrible ads out there. So we think we've solved this as an industry, that the only ads are running now, we're all so smart, the only ones that are running are great. Clearly that's not the case. There are some absolutely horrible ads out there that really do chase people away from their experience. There's also some great ones. So how can we learn from that and just make sure that we're not running the terrible ones? So it is difficult to make a brilliant ad, but I think by using some of the rules of thumb based on the data points we have, it's actually a good exercise to work with agencies. More and more of our agencies are using the data early on in the creative process to test out concepts, to iterate on things that they might have just run before. So, Nissan will send us 9 versions of an ad that they shot, different music, different lengths, different logo treatment, even different endings in some cases. We test them all overnight. They tweak them again. By the time the ad airs or is put out, the ad is really almost perfect. And so that iterative creative development based on data is really something where the industry is headed. So it's nice we have a nice normal distribution here in terms of the ad quality. Our scores are a 0 to 950 scale. The top ads are about a 660 or better. That represents about 4 or 5% of all ads. So we'll talk about a few of those. But generally, it's still very difficult to have an ad that delivers on all the dimensions that you need it to. So there's still room to go in the industry. Some categories have inherent advantages. We know certain categories create ads that are very Pavlovian. So when you ask a person if they like that pizza pulling apart on the Pizza Hut food porn ad, those ads always seem to do well with people. And so we had to create some metrics that would get that kind of Pavlovian effect out of there on certain categories. You're going to have a different response to that ad than you're going to have for the toenail fungus ad. Surprisingly was the Super Bowl ad last year, but you just automatically have a different response to that just based on the product category. But normalizing for that, you still can find greatness almost anywhere. Some unexpected ads scored really well, like a Vitamix ad, a food KitchenAid ad has some great ones. It doesn't really matter the category, there's opportunity to produce them anywhere. And I'm not going to go through these in detail, but kind of the core measures of what marketers are trying to do with these ads is achieve breakthrough, or achieve product communication, deliver information of some kind, or deliver repetition where you have an ad that people are going to want to watch over and over, whereas some ads are ads that it's one and done. They love the ad, but they never want to watch it again. So dimensions on the bottom that we'll talk about in some of these are attention and likability. Those are key determinants of breakthrough. Are people going to remember it? Is it going to break through the clutter of all the ad inventory that they're seeing every day? Watchability or rewatchability is a measure that we put in there about frequency. There's certain ads that people really don't mind watching over and over and over again. They think they're funny, they're entertaining in some way. And there's other ads that are just one and done. I invested my time, I got the message, but I'd never choose to watch that again. Communication ones on information, what we call change, but information is an important one that we tune for a lot of direct response advertisers. So information content on a mortgage company that's driving leads to a site is one of the most important measures to get that action to happen. And so with a couple of the companies we work with, they test their ads to achieve a certain information score because that is what drives call center volume. That drives their direct response, is understanding that information component. So it becomes a guiding principle for them as they develop new creative. All right, so I'm going to talk about this ad. I want to get your feedback. This is audience participation here. But this is an ad that Mercedes sort of leaked for Super Bowl a couple years ago. And I want to get your reactions to this one. Okay, we don't need to run all through that, but how many people in the room thought that was a girl power empowering to women ad? That was in the creative brief. That's what they went out to accomplish. If you continue running the ad, it actually is a group of male football players that are washing her car. And Mercedes thought, hey, this is awesome, this is girl power, she's in control. Well, look at the scores, the three right bars there are women's scores. The ad absolutely bombed with women. Women hated it. Look at the word cloud. It's like sexist, targeted to men, just awful, right? Those red things mean bad. The red words mean bad. So that was a huge shock to them. I mean, they'd spent a lot of time and money in this ad. They thought the message was going to be really clear, that she was in control. Didn't really work that way. They wound up pulling the ad. They ran this one instead, but pulled very, very late in the rotation. You guys probably remember this one, where Kate Upton was still featured, but nice in a totally different way.
Sure is.
Make a deal with me, kid. You can have the car and everything that goes along with it.
Somebody remember this one? Anybody remember this? Give me smile, give me smile. Get ready to Kate.
I've been around for a long, long year. Stole many a man's soul and faith. Pleased to meet you. Hope you get me. Oh, yeah. But what wasn't you? Nature of my mind.
So what do you say?
Thanks. But I think I got this.
So that was a very clever ad. It kept everybody's attention in the room probably for the 60 seconds, and certainly for spending. Super Bowl prices are $140,000 a second. So if you're spending 60 of them, it would be a good idea to make sure the creative works well. Everybody loved this ad. You see, women didn't like it quite as much. Mercedes skews a little bit female, but certainly within the tolerances, they're totally happy with it. Generally, it really appealed to everyone. And that's really one of the key messages on targeting. If you're going for Super Bowl, you're hitting everybody. Don't run a targeted ad in Super Bowl. If you have a very specialized targeted campaign, that's where running them on digital and really focus on precise targeting is the way to go with those. But this is a good example where even though they went through approvals, went through the creative brief, everybody thought it was all on target. Lo and behold, right before when you tested it, consumers have a different response. So how important is attention? Well, attention now is everything. People don't have to watch an ad all the way through. Increasingly, it's getting attention and keeping it within the first 3 to 5 seconds. Very, very hard to do. But what do you think of this one?
If there were something that threatened your family with diseases like staph, strep, and E. coli, you'd expect it to look like this. Not this. Get to pests before they get to you. With the Terminix Ultimate Protection Guarantee. For around $1 a day, we'll work to keep pests out. Guaranteed. Call or click today.
So this ad was one of our highest scoring ads in attention ever. It kept everybody's attention. The CGI is fantastic. It was made by a small agency in Europe. Very innovative technology. You couldn't stop watching it, but you didn't like it. most people, one of these rare occasions where the ad was high in attention, but very low in likability. Not an ad you would ever want to watch again. And you see the word cloud with it's gross, it's disgusting, it's like, all of these things. But it still was able to achieve attention. So that doesn't mean that's going to generate purchase intent, something you really want, a warm, fuzzy feeling about the brand. Really important to balance that attention and likability together. Here's another one here. You guys might remember this one too.
What a lucky man he was.
The Passat, a 2013 IIHS top safety pick, designed with other...
So now, Volkswagen's got its own creative issues right now, as we all know. But with this particular ad, again, very high attention, very low likability. People don't like to be shocked in certain situations, but it was very high in memorability. People didn't forget this ad because they were shocked. They had the quiet music and the whole serene scene disrupted by the car crash. And a lot of these ads are repurposed. The numbers are still over 70, close to 80% of ads that are branded video running online are repurposed TV ads of some kind. So there's a tremendous overlap on where this runs, but you can see that on this particular example, you have this high attention, but very low emotional connection. You're shocked and you're actually mad that it kind of disrupted your environment. Brand linkage is another one, very easy to fix. I'm going to show you an example here. You guys have probably seen this ad. If you're not Yankees fans, I won't run it for 90 seconds, but you guys remember this one? Yeah.
Then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words.
All right, enough Yankees. We had some great verbatims on this ad saying this was a great Nike ad. How many people thought it was a Nike ad? I'd probably tell you there. So the problem with this ad is everybody, if you ask them what baseball team this was for, you'd get like everyone knows it, right? But when we found out the brand recognition was actually quite low, and that little spider plot over there, likability and attention hugely high. Emotion was very high. The black and white, the whole, national figure of Derek Jeter retiring, the whole thing scored very well, particularly among baseball fans and all the relevant targets. But it was actually pretty low on brand linkage. People didn't know who it was for. So when we actually recut it, we put the little logo in the bottom. Now agencies don't love us messing with their creative. But in this particular case, it's a Gatorade ad all the way through. It's not disruptive to the brand. In fact, it increased the view-through rate all the way through because people knew who it was for. So by doing that and testing it, we were able to prove that it had a significant improvement in the overall score, where people would watch it again, but more importantly on the brand delivery. And so simple things like that are allowed to do two things. One is that you recall who the brand's for, which is kind of important when you're spending all this money to know that it's actually your brand that's associated with Derek Jeter. But it also increases the likelihood you're going to finish it because you kind of know what Gatorade stands for, you kind of know what Nike stands for, you kind of know what BMW stands for. So where they have those positive brand affiliations, a little thing like that can make a big difference. And you can see that they knew exactly that it was a Gatorade ad, and that did not detract from the experience. It actually enhanced the experience. As opposed to the other one, they actually had a very small, I didn't run it all the way through, but it had a very small Gatorade logo at the end. And people were like, this is like throwing it at the very end. It has no connection to the storyline. And we didn't change the creative at all, but they felt it was a better connection to the storyline simply because we had that little logo on the bottom. So let's talk about funny. Funny is becoming more and more popular, I think, as a way to get people to pay attention. It really works well in that regard. But one of the slides I love to show here is that there is actually a zero correlation between funniness and effectiveness. You have some really funny effective ads, and you have some really funny don't work at all ads. And so it's kind of an interesting phenomenon that actually scientifically looking across cyan ads, there is really no relationship. It's all about the script, how it's delivered, how funny is actually communicated. So I'm going to run this one.
Which month would I lose to get more marsh? More of all this? June. My anniversary's in June.
Hey, honey, I'm home.
I'm upstairs. No. Yeah, June.
I've seen that 100 times and I still laugh at it when I see it. You guys remember what it was for? I mean, if I asked you right now, you'd remember what it was for, but I bet you wouldn't tomorrow. It was one of the lowest brand delivery ads that we'd had. People loved the script, thought it was hilariously funny, but seriously, when you walk out that room and I ask you who that ad was for, you'd probably have a hard time remembering it. So high in attention, high in likability. One of the bottom quintile scores, that little red dot up there, means it was a bottom quintile score, which is really pretty poor for this particular category, bottom quintile within the casual dining category. So funny doesn't always mean successful. You can see everybody said it was funny, but again, the Buffalo Wild Wings kind of logo detection, brand detection was actually very low. Compared to this one,
That should do it. Enjoy your new shower.
this is, same level of funniness. We actually can score funniness, same level of funniness. So it's still a very funny ad, totally different performance. You got schooled on every feature of that shower without knowing it. You know the brand, almost everything that thing could do. And most people are going, wow, I want that thing. So very different outcomes, even though they both were going after that, particular funny brief. So moving along, we're going to talk about ad length. This is becoming more and more important. We're testing all different lengths of ads. They can take a television spot that's already produced. One of the most dangerous things to do is hack it down to a smaller length without testing it. Small, short ads are much harder to do well than long ads. If you have a 2-minute ad, you can pretty much tell your whole story. If you have 7 seconds or 15 seconds, incredibly difficult to do it well. P&G and Clorox are some of the best in the world and have invested millions of dollars in trying to perfect how to get a 15-second spot to work. And beyond a few outside instances, it's almost, they just never come close to working against a longer form. So ad length is pretty important. Okay. I'll show you this story here. It's the long version here. Right here. Great one.
Oh, buddy.
That's obviously the long version. What do you guys think? Pretty good ad? So Google has a unique strategy of running big events. So they'll run a 90-second or a 2-minute ad in the Billboard Music Awards or the Academy Awards. And then they'll do follow-on versions of that ad, 15 seconds or less, for the next 3 or 4 months. So you're reminded of that initial experience by these 15-second cuts or a pre-roll. So with that first introduction, they then came back with, scored very well kind of across the board, across all demos, just a very impactful ad. Lots of good feedback from verbatim comments from viewers saying that, they loved it. He's being a good father. He's paying attention to his son and all the different things they can do, even in the backyard. So all that was terrific on the first ad. They then released this one.
Hey, shop down the street.
Well, all of a sudden, that good dad turned into a horrible parent. And when we tested it, it still scored okay, but there was a tremendous negative backlash about, you're out there with your son, stop watching movies. Turn this stupid tablet off. You've got enough TV in your life. What a terrible parent. Dad is a bad father. He can't entertain his son without a tablet. You don't need to take elect camping, negative stuff, right? Some people really hated this version. They quickly pulled it and came back with this one.
This way?
Now, this one fixed the problem, actually, did way better. Now, the 15 is never going to score as high as the 90. But the point here is that Google was quickly able to respond to this. We were able to quickly retest it. They have all the footage there. They've got editors all over the place. It doesn't take a long time to recut and save the rest of your buy by not running something that you know isn't going to work. And this happened kind of after the fact. Obviously better to do it ahead of time. But a good example that just because of time limit, you can communicate very different messages to that. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple of things very quickly. Most of these you guys know. On a display ad, the studies have shown that the person will spend up to 1 second, usually quite a bit less than 1 second, and sometimes they're blind and don't notice it at all. But what the performance drivers for display ads, when I was at Yahoo, we would do all the A/B testing, and I'm sure you guys have done a lot of that. It really is driven by the size of the ad, the relevance of the ad. So if you see an ad that is Pampers and you have diaper-aged children, you're going to pay attention to it more than if you don't. The position on the screen, and of course, whether it's viewable at all. When we're talking about video, sorry about the volume on that one. That was actually one of the ads that we tested for Facebook. Video is a totally different thing on how humans process it. So when you're looking at video, first of all, you're admitting that you're going to invest up to 16 seconds, or on average 16 seconds, could be higher or lower. But the performance quality are very different metrics. People are looking to be entertained. They're looking for some type of emotional connection, something to grab their attention. It's a higher bar than what you would find in a display ad. And meaningfulness is one of those things too. I want a return for the amount of attention points I'm giving to this ad, and it better deliver. That's kind of the mindset of the viewer today. So we all know that you see this difference between CPMs, you see difference with inventory, creative differentiation, et cetera. There is a lot of difference between how the impact video brings to the digital landscape. The behaviors and tools that we've seen are not always equipped to really make the right calls on a video ad that would have been perfectly fine in an environment where you had 10 display creatives that you could run quickly. So we're needing to develop better metrics and decommoditize these impressions because the stakes are so high. On digital, we're finding that just testing an ad, and getting a reaction to it isn't enough. In fact, we've been doing a lot of work with Twitter and Facebook, et cetera, those guys, to really understand what is it in the first 3 to 5 seconds that's going to get somebody to actually choose to want to watch that all the way through. Interestingly, if you remember Google's TrueView product had a restriction that they wouldn't let you put a logo in the first 5 seconds of an ad. And they were actually shooting themselves in the foot because if they did, there was like a 300% improvement in completion rate of the ad because people know it's an ad that's something that is going to be meaningful. The other thing that, in addition to kind of tracking this attention level throughout the ad, is really understanding what its viral potential is. So are there attributes, and what we've identified in some of the most successful viral ads viral videos, what are those dimensions, and does your ad have that kind of level of viral potential? And then, like I said before, we still want to measure what the overall effect is once it's actually been viewed all the way through, but that's no longer a guarantee anymore. You have to fight to get that ad to be viewed all the way through. So here's just a quick example of how we do some of those second-by-second traces. So these lines here are really looking at different segments of viewers. One of the key things that really drives that number up, so that likelihood to view, is your perception to the brand going in. If you love Apple, and you only would look at an Apple computer, Apple could almost show a blank logo for 15 seconds, and people who really love Apple would still score it highly. I mean, that's how biasing this kind of product interpretation is. The point on here is if you're comparing these ads to sets of other ads at scale, you can determine which ones drop off quickly, which is really what we did with Twitter. Now, here's an example of drop-offs across quintiles of ads, or deciles of ads, actually. The green lines are ads that people chose to stick with all the way through. The interesting thing is people make that determination usually within 3 to 5 seconds. It doesn't take a lot of time to know this is a dog and I'm like, get this off my screen as fast as possible, which is this steep drop on the orange lines there. But you can see the really good ones are able to actually retain that throughout the entire experience. And a lot of the key things that have to do with that is familiarity. So if it turns out to be an ad for the most interesting man in the world, for example, for Dos Equis, very niche brand, they have a very small media plan. Everybody knows those ads, for one thing, right? Probably, or most people do. And a lot of people would actually choose to watch it, even just hearing the music. People are like, oh, these are funny. Right? I'm gonna stick with these. So a lot of it is related to the product. A lot of it's related to familiarity, but it's related to that visual scene in that first 5 seconds. Logo placement, too, is another one where if people see the logo and, as I said before, know what the ad is actually about, they're more likely to stick with it and be a green line as opposed to a red line. Having said that, one of the things we also looked at is kind of segmenting it by length. And we actually found that the scores for the ads actually improve with length, so you're able to tell a better story. The balancing act is getting people to follow it all the way through. So if you have a 60-second ad, it better be compelling to get people to stick with it all the way through, but when you do, you have a far stronger message than if it's a 5-second or a 15-second. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna talk about quickly here is social media measurement. A lot of people try to read the response to their creative through social media. So what's trending, what seems to be a blip, we see all kinds of actions that people are looking at, whether it's TV or their digital ads. One company would look at Twitter feeds with 2 minutes following the ad, when the ad aired. And that would be used as a benchmark to try and gauge how impactful the ad was. We had others that would look at how many calls to the call center they got within the half hour after the ad aired. Now, for some of these things, it makes sense. Other things, if you see it at 11 at night and you're lying in bed and you're watching a car commercial, you're not going to go to the car configurator within 5 seconds. Some of these objectives seem to be too severe. But the other thing is really related to the actual audience within social media. And as I like to say, just because social media is big doesn't mean it's unbiased, especially when it comes to ads. So here's an example.
The little girl was dropped into a deep, dark cave with snakes and boogeymen.
And no cartoons.
But she got out, right, Mommy?
No. She was stuck in there for 100 years, all by herself. That's why we never take Mommy and Daddy's strawberry cheesecake temptations.
Okay, bedtime. 6 indulgent layered desserts at 150
so
calories.
So I thought this was hilarious.
No temptations. It's the first jello that's just for adults.
So the story goes, who remembers who Jello's spokesman was 25 years ago? So that's the danger of celebrity affiliations, right? you never forget Bill Cosby and the Jell-O ads. They'd been off air for more than a decade. They just hired a new agency. Agency was Crispin in Boulder, very edgy creative shop. And that ad to me was right on, didn't go over the line, it was kind of right there. They had 300,000 people sign up for a Boycott Jell-O campaign on Facebook within 24 hours of that ad airing. People were saying that this was vicious, it's bad parenting, and Kraft, being this conservative company, all hell was breaking loose. They had 8 more of these ads in production for the campaign. 3 were done. They had 5 more that had already been committed. All the media was committed. They were going all in for this campaign, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we were able to get this result to them the next morning and said, this isn't just the best Jell-O ad we've tested. This is the best ad in the entire food category this year. People thought it was hilarious, and especially moms with kids thought it was hysterical. And the moms with kids across the country in a nationally represented sample said, you know what, this is unbelievable. So they stuck with it. That was on a Tuesday night. Now we're up to Wednesday. Thursday night, they broke the second ad in the campaign. It scored even higher. And it turned out to be the most successful new product launch Kraft had done in over 10 years. And it just goes to show that you can't always believe what the lunatic fringe might be saying on social media, at any given point in time, even though it's a large number, that this ad really turned out to be a very effective campaign for them. I think on digital, the cost of bad creative is even higher than it was on TV because the cost of switching is very low. And so with Facebook and with some of the other brands that we've been working with on the publisher side, bad creative is not just bad for the advertiser, but it's bad for me as the publisher. It costs me money. It costs me user experience. It costs me bad perception of the brand. And so bad creative kind of doesn't really help anyone, and I think a systematic way of measuring it is a way to really float all boats. And in a non-exchange type world where creative has its own currency and value and score, it really floats all boats in the ecosystem because viewers are certainly happier, right? Because they're seeing stuff they would actually choose to watch. Publishers are happier because they're not getting people to leave their sites because of a terrible ad. And advertisers are happier because they're performing better. And it kind of increases the whole ecosystem value. So that's why we do it. Thank you very much.